Welcome back to the channel. We are in Leeds. The reason why? Well, you'll have to wait. I'll explain later. Many modern football historians don't believe you can trace the origins of modern association football simply back to just the birth of an institution such as an FA, club, or even back to an original set of rules. They claim quite rightly that if you look at early football, much of it wasn't played in the style we are used to today. Early London FA football, for example, was basically an individualistic dribbling game which would have looked much like rugby played with feet only. It was not yet the modern game of expansive passing to players in predetermined tactical positions, all working as a team to play out a strategy. It was a game largely of individual skill and not the collective effort we see today. The same historians will tell you to look to the early 1870s and in particular to Glasgow in Scotland to find the origins of the modern game and the point in time when we started to witness a passing, expansive and far more effective form of the game, and one which you would recognise as much more familiar to the way the game is played in modern times. Jonathan Wilson, in his fascinating book Inverting the Pyramid, for example, states that you can trace passing back to just one match, the first official international played at the West of Scotland cricket ground in November 1872. Others, including our trusted BBC, have very recently backed up these Scottish claims to have invented the modern passing game in programmes such as these, claiming if football came home, it would have to come north of the border. So is this all true, and is there actually any hard evidence behind what appears to be the current consensus that modern football owes its great debt to the style of the game emerging in Glasgow from late 1872 onwards? So where and when and by whom did we first witness the first evidence of passing and formations taking place within evolving modern association football? Well, we're going to find out, and sorry Scotland, it wasn't Glasgow. Our very first evidence of passing the ball between players was actually taking place was from a game played at Hyde Park, Sheffield in December 1861. Sheffield FC's own club archives record a three-player move made between Prest, Appleton and Chambers during the world's very first charity football match arranged between Sheffield FC and Hallam. The match didn't just record close midfield named player passing events, there are also reports in the Nottingham Journal of long balls termed superior. So whether the ball was played direct to a player or more likely for players to run onto the ball, the pass was witnessed as being effective. This was embryonic passing football, not dribbling. 2 years before the London FA formed and over 11 years before that first international in Glasgow. Sheffield clubs leaving the town to play its style of football away started to get it noticed as being effective and different by the local press. The world's first away match played between Nottinghamshire and Sheffield FC at the Meadows Cricket Ground in Nottingham on the 2nd of January 1865 gives us more evidence of passing from Sheffield football. The Nottinghamshire Guardian describes the Sheffield winning goal as two players touching to base. And this impressive play is backed up by a separate report in Bell's Life of the same goal being scored as a result of some scientific movements. Players combining and playing the ball between themselves to create an opportunity to score, which they did. So, back to Leeds, and the reason why we're in Leeds and wandering around the Woodhouse Moor area. Also in 1865, we start to get evidence that Sheffield football wasn't just about passing the ball between players effectively, but also featured players deliberately taking up formations across the pitch to create an advantage against the opposition. This time, Sheffield Norfolk's football is reported when they played Leeds here at Royal Park on the 19th of June 1865. Again, we have two separate accounts. The first in the Leeds Intelligencer describes the Norfolk players as trying to pass the ball around the Leeds team as a deliberate strategy. It goes on to describe this passing play as overall more scientific and useful. But the real bombshell of evidence comes in the second report in the Leeds Evening Express. It also describes Norfolk as playing more scientifically, but also explains that the Sheffield players were taking up deliberate fixed positions as part of that strategy. The way in which the men were placed being excellent. Here we don't just have passing as a strategy, but predetermined formations. This is the modern football, the football opposite to the London-based individualistic dribbling style that we are looking for. And it's still over 7 years before the first international, and 2 years before any association football club even formed in Scotland. Royal Park is an incredibly important, significant and missed lost football ground in our game's history. The reports of the Leeds-Norfolk match played here are the earliest evidence we have that the style of football being developed by Sheffield clubs was the modern style we would recognise today. Not just passing, but with formations. This place has real historical significance in answering the question, where does modern football come from? If we continue looking, the evidence of developing passing and formations being more effective in Sheffield football keeps coming. We have yet another Sheffield free named player move from a Sportsman report of a match played against Lincoln in early 1868. The following year, when Sheffield played Newark, at least two different newspapers heavily criticised the Newark team for not having a tactical formation plan and sticking to it. The heavy defeat they suffered is attributed by the Nottinghamshire Guardian reporter as seeming quite lost in the field, and by the Sheffield Independent as not properly organising their field, and the captain not successfully getting his players to keep to their places. Terms like field, captain, of course, originate from cricket, which is where the vast majority of Sheffield clubs and their members came from, not public schools or universities. If you continue to look between 1869 and 1872, the reports of what was passing and expansive football are there in multiple numbers and across many different Sheffield clubs. We have passing and formations evidence from reports involving the Sheffield representative side, the Wednesday, Hallam and Garrick FC, for example, all pre-November 1872. Sheffield's early game was a passing, expansive game, and it was effective. Sheffield's results against teams from outside the town pre-1875 were massively in favour of the Sheffield team, demonstrating just how effective the Sheffield form of football was during the 1860s and early 1870s. Modern association football has its roots in Sheffield football. All the references I have shown you in this video can be easily found with proper research. There are multiple more if you look. I encourage all football historians to dig out, study these important sources, and then revise their knowledge of the game. Sheffield had the world's first modern football culture, with by far the largest majority of clubs anywhere in the world forming within the town during the first 18 years of the game. It's probably no surprise that this vast collection of club members regularly playing each other should have been the first group to experiment and find the most effective ways of playing the game. Finally, you might ask how players in Scotland got to know about a style of play that clearly suited their physique, shinty clan influences, and desire to play a team game, rather than an upper-class inspired dribbling individualistic game. Well, you could get on a train from Sheffield and get easily to Glasgow as early as 1860. The Manchester, Sheffield and Glasgow Railway did exist. You could also read a newspaper on the way. I'll let you fill in the obvious gaps. Till next time.